Hello and welcome to the Profitworks webinar, How to Get More Sales from Your Email Marketing. So today what we're going to be doing is the Profitworks webinar, How to Get More Sales from Your Email Marketing. What we're going to be looking at is how you can get more sales from your email marketing. That's the objective of the webinar. In terms of the agenda for the webinar, we're going to go through what the goal of all email marketing should be. We're going to take a look at what are the keys to higher email conversion rates. And when we're talking about conversion, we're talking about the amount of sales that actually convert from the emails that you're sending out. Then we're going to go through how to track the results that you are getting from your email marketing, followed by looking at some advanced tactics that you can implement with your email marketing. And then finally, we'll see if maybe we take a look at some live examples of emails that have been sent out. So in terms of the goal of every email, so it's a lot of confusion around what is the goal, what you should be tracking, and we commonly see this, that companies are tracking the wrong thing. So the goal of your email marketing is not the amount of people that open your emails. It's not the amount of people that click on a link in your email and take them to your website, and it's not the amount of people that maybe share something about the email on social media or add themselves to one of your social media accounts. The goal of all of the email marketing you would ever do would always be to increase sales. At the end of the day, if what you're doing with email marketing does not in the end drive additional sales, you have to ask yourself why you're spending time and money doing it. And given that that is the main goal, we really need to make sure that that is what we are focused on, and that is what we're tracking. Because if we're not tracking that and we're tracking some of these other metrics, it could be misleading in terms of what the actual results are that you're receiving, and would be misleading in terms of how successful it is. When it comes to conversion, there's basically 4 categories that impact how well any particular email that you would send converts. The first category would be who. Second category would be the subject. Third would be the content. And fourth would be the send. Now, in each of these categories, we've got a bunch of different images that are basically a visual representation of the different components in these categories. So when you take a look at email, and when we talk about the who category, what we're talking about is who the email is coming from. And whoever the email is coming from, it needs to be a trustworthy source and a source that's going to create some sort of interest. If the from line of your email conveys either that it's not trustworthy, or it's not of interest, or some sort of curiosity, it will result in a lower open rate. So what we often see is that by companies using a company name as the who line, who it's coming from, the from line, that results in a lower conversion rate, because in general people assume that you're trying to sell them something, whereas if it's more personable, we have seen usually that this results in higher conversion rates. Now again, that would be something that you should probably test, but that is the results that we see for most of our clients. Next, under subject, you need to make sure that the subject of your emails, the subject line, that it is relevant and piques curiosity. So for relevant, whatever you put in that subject line, it's got to be relevant enough that the person receiving the email will want to stop and look further, read the preview for the email, and then actually go into the email to read the entire thing. Again, with the subject line, it needs to have something that will spark some curiosity, that will make them be curious about what the email is about and curious enough to read the email preview and even click in and read the entire email. Under content, what impacts conversion is that the content is personalized. So if you send out an email blast and it doesn't personalize the content to the receiver, it will have a lower conversion rate. Even just as simple as stating their name at the start of an email, so something like "Hi Jim," will convert much better than just saying hi or not having any introduction and just having an image or a sentence. Next, the first sentence of the email is very important because it's the first thing they're going to read, which will help them identify whether it's worthwhile reading the rest of the email. Also, oftentimes with various mail clients, the first sentence or first couple sentences will show up in a mail preview. So again, this is something that the email receiver is going to be scanning to determine which emails are worthy of their time to open. So you need to make sure that that first sentence is very powerful in terms of getting them interested in reading your email. Next, within the content of your email, you want to make sure that you hyperlink to other pages for your website or other resources to give them more information. When you're doing this, you want to make sure that whatever you hyperlink, that those words are going to really capture their attention, because by hyperlinking them, it will make those words stand out. So you need to make sure whatever words you are hyperlinking, that they're going to, again, draw interest and create curiosity, that someone will want to click on the link or even just read the email based on the words that you've highlighted from the hyperlink. Next, at the bottom there, you can see a picture of some people leading each other in blindfolds. So that's to indicate that within your email, you have to build trust. Do things to build trust that you're a credible person or company, and that you can do whatever you're claiming you might be able to help someone with. So this would be things like making sure you have a professional email signature, maybe doing some things in the content of the email to display that you are trustworthy, whether it be testimonials from customers or a comment on different certifications or large companies that you've done work for in the past. Those would all be things that can build trust and make the receiver of the email more likely to be willing to trust you to take a couple minutes to talk with you about your service or product. Next, you want to make sure that whatever email you send out, that it's focused around generating a discussion. Again, what we see as working best to deliver conversions is to basically get a discussion started. Some of the great ways we've seen work effectively to do this would be to ask the respondent a question or to present some information that would entice them to ask a question. Next, the picture of the horse jumping over the barrier. Basically, what this is to represent is that you want your email content to be a low commitment level. The lower the commitment level of the person responding to your email, the more likely they will be to respond. If they feel like they're going to be forced to purchase something, or they're going to be forced to take some sort of action that they don't want to, that's going to inhibit them from responding and taking the next step. So if you can create smaller steps that would appear to be less committal, but yet is still a step forward, we've seen that works well for conversion. And then finally, under content, you need to make sure that whatever you're providing has value. So try and put yourself in the receiver's shoes and think about, if you were to receive the email, would it have enough value and weight for you to consider responding to that email, given all of the other emails that they're receiving? So it needs to really have some sort of overwhelming value that it's hard for them to not want to respond to the email. So you really need to do things to convince them that it's worth their time. In addition to time and low commitment, if you can downplay the amount of time that it's going to take for whatever step you're asking them to take next, that can often help to increase conversions as well. And then finally, when you look at sending the email, there's a couple different factors that impact conversion. So one would be the day of the week that you send. So usually we see that emails being sent on Mondays tend to do the best for businesses, with Fridays being a close second. And for businesses that are selling to consumers, it appears usually Saturday is the best. And then in terms of time of day, what we typically see is early morning is usually the best. Sometimes mid-morning can do fairly well as mid-afternoon. But again, with all of this different stuff, whether it be the from line, the subject line, the content of the email, when you send it, all of that, a key part to conversion is testing each of those different components to see which works best for your particular business. So doing testing where you send one version to half your list and another version to the other half and see which performs better, or if you're testing send time, that you would send exactly the same content, subject line, and from line, but send to the first half of your list at one send time, and then the second half of the list you would send at a second time with the same, again, content, subject line, and from line. So how do you track the results of your email marketing? So again, the goal of all of your email marketing is always to increase sales. So that's the most important thing to track, is how much revenue or additional revenue is your email marketing driving. So in order to track this, it really needs to become a part of your sales process that is built right into your system. If it's not, what usually happens is it gets forgotten, or it just doesn't happen. Now, if you don't track how much revenue is coming from your email marketing, how are you going to know whether it's working or not? Exactly, you won't be able to. But if you track it, you can see not only within your email marketing, but across all of your marketing channels, you can see what is working to drive sales and what is not, and you can spend more time and resources and money doing the things that do drive sales and less on the ones that are not driving sales. So how do you set up this tracking of the revenue generated from your email marketing? So again, making it part of your sales process and making sure that anyone who is receiving sales, that they ask the customer when they become a customer how they found you and what made them decide to buy from you. Now, if your sales interactions don't happen person to person and they happen online, you can very easily do this by adding a drop-down field on your checkout window that people who are buying have to select where they found out about you, and then it makes it very automated. If you have a business where your sales transactions come from a person-to-person interaction, then it's just simply having your sales force ask the customers when they become customers how they found you and what made them decide to buy from you. Sometimes I get feedback that, I just don't have time to do that, or I don't want to upset my customers. You will not upset your customers. We have never experienced a single customer who had said, I don't want to provide this information, or I don't have time for this. And actually what we found is the opposite, where it actually builds and strengthens the relationship, because people like to be able to share and help, and just create that personal connection. So then once you have this information, then it's critical that you record it. Now, how you record it can be multiple ways. The best way is to implement that right with your accounting or ERP system. So when a sale is getting entered into your accounting system, whatever paperwork you're using to enter that sale, that on that paperwork, when it was completed, the source was put down, and you can put that right into your accounting system, and then it's very easy to export reports for any given time period to see what sources of marketing your sales are actually coming from. If that's not an option, the next best option would be to track this in your CRM system if you have one, and kind of the worst case would be creating a separate Excel spreadsheet. Again, why the accounting system is the best is because it doesn't make sense to have two sources of the information. It's creating extra work, and it also could allow for inaccuracies where where maybe the Excel file doesn't line up with the accounting system, whereas your accounting system has to be accurate. Finally, so what do you do with this information? So when you're tracking your results, you want to look at that information both monthly and yearly to see what is in fact driving your sales, and then you can compare that to the cost of the different initiatives and see which one is delivering the best return on investment. And then you can use that information to determine, next year where you're going to spend your marketing dollars and what you might cut out because it's not driving sales. So now looking at some more advanced tools for email marketing. The first and probably the most powerful is doing A/B testing. So basically what A/B testing is having two versions of an email and sending one version to one portion of your list and the other version to another portion. So again, like we were talking about previously. So you can see here in the image below that what we have is two different but similar emails. And what we've done here is the only thing we've changed is the wording of the actual content. Now, by testing this, we were able to get a conversion rate of 0.3 8% on version B versus version A. So that's over a 5%, or sorry, a 5 times increase in terms of conversions of one version versus another. So again, by doing these types of tests, you can be continually improving the effectiveness of your email marketing and learning what's working and what's not. Next, kind of advanced process or tool would be automated personalization. So again, we've talked about this a little bit, but what you want to do is customize the email to the person receiving it. So you would create an email and then you have certain fields that pull information based on that particular recipient of the email. So in the example here, you could say, you can see that we can insert their name, maybe an event that you met the person at, and maybe something like their industry or their company name, and it can appear that this email is very personalized to them, even though you didn't specifically write that email just to them. It will appear that way, so you can create a more personal feel without having to individually write emails to hundreds or thousands of recipients. Next, what you want to make sure you're doing is that you segment your list. So again, what we mean by segmentation is that if you have a list of 2,500 contacts or maybe 10,000 contacts, you would split them based on some sort of criteria. So you could split the list based on what market they're in, where they're geographically located, what their interest is, where you got the contacts, which product or service they would be most interested in. And then from that, you can create content that speaks specifically to that segment. So if you split a list based on industry, in that email you can talk about some of the industry specific trends or current issues and ask that person maybe a question about it to start a discussion. So that's going to be much more effective than sending out a list to 10 different industries and trying to find some sort of discussion topic that's going to create curiosity and start a discussion. And then one other thing we recommend is that you do a first impression test. So with your email. So what this is once you've got your email written, print it out and take a look at it for a couple seconds and then take it away and try and think about what initially kind of popped off the page or the screen, if you're looking at it on the screen, that you got from looking at that just for a couple seconds. Then go and do the same with a couple people, maybe 10 or 15 people, and see what their responses are. From these responses, you should get a very good indication of what kind of a first impression your email is setting and if it's conveying what you want it to. If you're trying to get them interested in, let's say, email marketing services, and the thing that pops out to them is that the email looks disorganized and unprofessional, that's probably not what you want to be conveying, because no one's going to be interested in buying those services from someone who's disorganized and unprofessional. So from that, you can then ask those people that gave you that feedback, well, what is it that's causing it to look disorganized or unprofessional? And then you can make the revisions to correct that and you'll get better results. So now, if there is anyone that would like to have their specific email marketing campaigns that they send out for us to take a look at them, we'd be happy to do that. Now I know that can cause some issues with confidentiality, so if we don't get anyone to respond, you can always email us afterwards and we can do a session one-on-one. So I'll just wait a couple minutes to see if there is anyone that would like to have that done now, and if not, then anyone who wishes, even after the webinar is recorded, can email us and we can go through a 5-minute review of some emails that they've sent out and make some suggestions in terms of what they've done well and what maybe could be improved. We'll just wait a couple more minutes and see if there's anyone who wants to do that. Okay, I think that is pretty much it then. So we'll wrap up the seminar, and again, thanks for tuning in. And if you come across any questions afterwards, feel free to email us, or another great resource is to visit our blog and podcast. You can find it at www.profitworks.ca/blog. So again, this has been a webinar from Profitworks Small Business Services. We provide search engine optimization, conversion optimization, and email marketing services for small businesses. Thanks again for tuning in. Have a great day.